I had not intended on coming to the microphone and the camera on this Sunday. I was minding my own business. Then I just happened to check into the news on my phone and I said, what the? So this is a lawsuit that went down on Friday. I'm just finding out about it on Sunday. I've got a great podcast coming out on Tuesday, but I hadn't planned on this one. So this is episode 5.5. It's an emergency broadcast of the Brian Sussman Show. It has to do with deception from the media, the likes of which actually stuns and amazes me. I have a great podcast, by the way, on media manipulation, media bias, yellow journalism. Just go ahead and check it out. I believe on the video show it's episode 3, and I think on the audio show it's episode 208 or 209. It's called Yellow Journalism. Yellow journalism, media bias, agitprop, created by a Marxist who actually was so revered. To this day, his name is so revered that the top prize in journalism is given in his name every year. His last name, Pulitzer. Check out the podcast. Can you tell I'm a little agitated? Listen, I love life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they're using the climate. The state of California is going all out to use the climate like it's never been used before. They want to take down big oil. They're suing big oil because they say big oil's always known that fossil fuels and the use thereof in our cars and our trucks was going to cause global warming and climate change. They knew that back in the 50s. California is suing the 5 largest oil and gas companies in the world, alleging they engaged in a decades-long campaign of deception about climate change and the risk posed by fossil fuels that has forced the state to spend tens of billions of dollars to address environmental-related damages. So they're saying because of big oil, we've had wildfires in this state, sea levels rising in this state, we've had floods in this state, rain bombs in this state. That's what they're saying. And let me tell you something. It starts in California. If California is successful with this, every other blue state is going to see it take place as well. And what's going to happen with this lawsuit if it's successful? If it's successful. With all the lies that they're using and all their trickery, if it's successful, it's just going to cause the price of gas to go even higher in the state of California and around the United States. But California is doing this. This is an attempt to right the financial ship in the state of California. You know, just a couple years ago in California, they had about $100 billion surplus. But now they have a $32 billion deficit. They've got to correct that somehow. When they had that surplus, what did they do? They grew government like nobody's business in this state. And now that the government has grown, it's not like you can start firing people because the economy's taken a dip. It's taken it in the shorts. So what do? They got to find some suckers to shake down. So they're going after big oil. And there are some other cities and counties involved in this as well here in the state of California. Other cities are also making their lawsuit against big oil. Well, all of those cities are upside down financially as well. Same with the counties. This is a shakedown operation. It's a Los Angeles Times story. I printed it out. It's also running in the San Jose Mercury News. It's also running at San Francisco Chronicle. So Attorney General in California, Bob Bonta, filed the lawsuit Friday. He's saying the American Petroleum Institute, API, knew about the effects of global warming and climate change back in the 1950s. Burning fossil fuels would warm the planet, but instead of alerting the planet about the dangers posed to the environment, they chose to deny or downplay the effects. Okay, I'm going to read some of these predictions they say occurred. They've fed us lies and myth-truths to further their record-breaking profits at the expense of our environment. Enough is enough. No, enough is enough with the gas prices in this state. You know, right? I just passed by a filling station about 2 hours ago. Diesel's at $6.30 a gallon. The cheapest gas I could find, because I was filling up my truck, cheapest gas I could find was $5.35 a gallon. You know what's going to happen? Here's where they're going with this. They want gas prices to necessarily rise. Why? It's part of Al Gore's wrenching transformation of society. Here's why. Because they have a law on the books in California. By 2035, there will not be another gas or diesel new car sold in the state. They want you to go to electric vehicles. That's what they're trying to do here. Get you into electric vehicles so we can have these 15-minute cities, get people out of the country, screw them, don't care about them. We want to collect you, get you as tightly packed together as possible so we can better control you. Oh yeah, like the grid's really going to hold up with all those plug-in cars. 135-page lawsuit to hold oil and gas companies financially responsible. Listen to this. These defendants must be held accountable for the truth they shared in private while trying to undermine the science in public. I'm going to get to this in just a moment. I know a little bit about this. They're saying in 1968, Stanford Research Institute told the API, significant temperature changes are almost certain to occur by the year 2000. And there seems to be no doubt the potential damage to our environment could be severe. Okay, this is one memo or something that somebody was able to scrounge up. If it were fake, it wouldn't surprise me because I know how these people play ball. I worked in that realm for so many years. I've seen the liars. I've seen the cheaters. I've seen the thieves. I've seen the journalists without a moral spine, moral backbone. They don't care. They'll lie right through their teeth because the end justifies the means. There's something big at work here, friends. Can I tell you what was happening in 1968? It was global cooling. All the talk. I know that the left hates to hear this, but I'm just telling you something. In the new book that I'm working on, just as I've done in the past, I've got all the information, all the data proving that in the 60s and 70s, the thought was global cooling. Because we just came off the hottest decade in record, the 1930s. Significant temperature changes are almost certain to occur by the year 2000. This is in 1968. There seems to be no doubt the potential damage to our environment could be severe. Well, guess what? By the year 2000, there was no global warming that was significant. There were no changes to the environment that were significant. There haven't been since. Oh, yes, okay, in the last few years, we've seen a little bit of a warming. They exaggerate the graphs to make it look so scary. But it's all within the historical record. Oh, but they'll tell you every flood is because of a rain bomb caused by climate change. Every drought is caused by climate change, as if droughts have never occurred before. Every record high temperature is because of climate change and fossil fuels, as if we've never had record high temperatures before. You know what? On any given day on planet Earth, there are record low temperatures too. And by the way, glaciers are growing in some parts of the world. So explain that to me. California spent billions of dollars, listen to this, to adapt to climate change and address the environmental damage that has resulted so far. What environmental damage are they talking about? Oh, that's right, wildfires. Oh, because of climate change, of course. No, wildfires in the state of California, and especially throughout the western United States, are because of poor care of our forests. The environmentalists do not want any trees to ever be cut down. They don't want any clearing. They don't want any thinning. A tree falls over in the middle of the forest, let it be. Don't take that tree out. No. Let it rot. That's nature's way. You know, the Native Americans didn't play that way. They managed the forest extremely well because the forests were everything to them. It was their sustenance. It was their livelihood. They managed the forest well. They would do controlled burns on a regular basis. Here's Governor Newsom, the man who would like to be president. Nancy Pelosi's nephew by marriage, that guy. Oh, you want some stories on Governor Newsom? I can tell you, because I was doing my radio talk show at the time when he was mayor of San Francisco. Can I tell you about... Listen, I hope the best for this guy. I hope he comes to know Jesus. I hope he repents. I really do. How could I not hope that for anybody? But in the meantime, because he's a public figure, let's just go there for a moment. I don't trust this guy. Here's why. Here's why I don't trust this guy. I don't trust any man who had an affair with his best friend's wife. I don't trust any guy who did that, because that's what Mayor Newsom did back in the day. And then, of course, conveniently said, oh, boy, I've got a drinking problem. That was it. I've got a drinking problem. Okay, so then he checks into rehab. He goes to Delancey Street in San Francisco, Delancey Street rehab. Never even really went there. He called up Mrs. Delancey on the phone, has a couple counseling sessions with her over the phone, and then, oh, he's cured. It's great. He's great. Meantime, he owns a winery, owns restaurants, owns bars, okay? And decides, well, I can drink a little wine once and again. Can I tell you something? I've never met, ever, I've never met an alcoholic who went into rehab and then decided, I can still have a glass of wine now and again. That was a convenient excuse for what he did to his best friend's wife. I don't trust guys like that. I don't trust this man when he says this. For more than 50 years, big oil has been lying to us, covering up the fact that they've known long how dangerous fossil fuels they produce are for our planet. Here's the deal. Oh, then listen to what else he says. California taxpayers shouldn't have to foot the bill for billions of dollars in damage, wildfires wiping out entire communities, toxic smoke clogging the air, deadly heat waves, record-breaking droughts parching our wells. Let me break that down point by point, if you will, please. First of all, wildfires wiping out entire communities has nothing to do with global warming. The wildfires he's talking about, oftentimes, most of the time in this state, have to do with power lines. Had to do with forests that weren't cleared properly because the environmentalists wouldn't let them be cleared properly to give space on either side of power lines to reduce danger. The environmentalists were the ones who wouldn't let PG&E properly manage the forest for their power lines. Well, that's changed now because we've had some big fires, and that's cost the state a lot of money. And so they want to just transfer the bill to big oil. You guys pay for it. Every time there's a flood, oh, it's got to be global warming. Our parched wells, you know why our wells are parched in this state? It's really simple. It has to do with the fact that the farmers in the Central Valley had their water cut off for irrigation. So whatever wells are there now are parched. They're not being properly replenished. They haven't been used for years. You go through the Central Valley, used to be the breadbasket to the world. You go through the Central Valley of California and you see nothing but dry land, desert. It used to be beautiful farmland because the environmentalists can't stand the farms in the state of California because they say this climate was not meant to farm. They don't like all the water being brought in from dams and reservoirs because they see those as a damned problem because they're unnatural. These Earth First radicals are maniacs. They hate humankind. They wish there were less of them. Their ideal population would be 600 million. Can you believe that? 600 million. That's the ideal population that they believe that the Earth should be able to handle properly. How are you going to get to that number, by the way? A pandemic? A war? How are you going to do this? Governor Newsom began calling plans to phase out oil production in California in 2019. Yeah, he did. You know, that's another problem. The reason why electricity prices are so expensive, California, highest electricity prices in the country, is because we have to import our natural gas. We have so much oil and gas in this state, and we're not able to pull it out of the ground any longer. We're importing natural gas. So, of course, that's expensive. Oh, but solar and wind's the answer. Yeah, right. If you're an investor in a solar or wind company, yeah, that's the answer for your bottom line. Climate liability litigation is gaining momentum. 5 California cities. By the way, all cities that are broke. San Francisco, Oakland, Santa Cruz, Richmond, Imperial Beach, and the counties of San Mateo, Marin, and Santa Cruz. All counties that are upside down financially. Of course, this is a shakedown operation. Now listen to this agitprop. Greenhouse gas. This is what they do. What they're about to say here, there's no counter argument. There's no point counterpoint. They didn't go and interview. Gee, just to get a counterpoint, let's go interview the 2022 Nobel Prize winning physicist John Clauser. Let's see what he has to say. No, they didn't do that. Greenhouse gases are largely byproducts of human use and combustion of fossil fuels to produce energy and petrochemical production. The primary greenhouse gas emitted as a result of human activities is CO2. CO2 is a trace gas in our atmosphere. It's an important gas. It's a trace gas in our atmosphere. And the amount of that trace gas that humans produce through the burning of fossil fuels is 3%. 3% of a trace. It's almost immeasurable. Almost immeasurable. I'll talk about that in my new book. As greenhouse gases accumulate in the atmosphere, the Earth radiates less energy back to space, warming the average surface temperature. This is just agitprop. They're just throwing this stuff out there. Fact. Oh, wait. It's not a hypothesis. It's not theory. It's scientific law. That's how they're promoting it. That's how they're putting it forward. The result has been, listen to this. The result has been whiplashing shifts in extreme weather. Listen to the language here, the rhetoric. Whiplashing shifts in extreme weather. Not true. Just not true. It's as if we've never had extreme weather on planet Earth. Every day, somewhere on the planet, there is extreme weather. Every day. There's a hurricane, a tornado, lightning storms, downpours, snowstorms, every day. Every day. Sadly, if you're in the business of studying hurricanes, there haven't been a lot of those in recent years. Sadly, if you're in the business of studying tornadoes, there haven't been an increase like you'd perhaps like to see for the sake of your research. Longer droughts, not true. Flooding, always been flooding. Sea level rise. The problem is there are markers at San Francisco Golden Gate. There are markers, they're high tide markers. They've been there for probably 100 years. The high tide hasn't changed. You know, ever since the last ice age, the overall global sea surface has probably risen about that much every year, about as close as your forefinger and index finger and thumb without touching. That's how much it increases every year. And can I just tell you this? It's an amazing world in which we live. There are parts of the world that are seeing sea level decreases. Oh, but what about Tuvalu? Tuvalu shouldn't. So many of these, Tuvalu's a joke. I'll talk about that in my next book. So many of these islands are built on coral, and they appear to be sinking because they're building all these wonderful resorts out of the coral on the island. They're using that as their main aggregate for construction. So it's like they're taking, and so the islands are sinking because they're using coral as the aggregate for all of these huge resorts that they're building. Okay, ocean acidification, not true. Harmful effects to terrestrial and marine ecosystems. Friends, this is a giant shakedown operation. This is an effort to balance the budgets of the state and some of the cities and the counties in California. This is an opportunity to reward stakeholders, various environmental groups, etc., research groups, etc., that are always reliable votes, and probably even unions who will be constructing God knows what in the name of global warming in this state. And then, of course, it's all about this. It's all about 2035 and stop the sale of cars and trucks in the state of California. Everybody goes to a plug-in. And then you just wait to see what happens with the grid. You've got it's still, I think in the state of California, it's something like 3% of all vehicles are electric vehicles right now. Our grid is so shaky. During the summertime hours, when we do have a heat wave, over the signs on the highway, it says, do not charge electric vehicle between 4 and 9 p.m. And we hardly have any electric vehicles now by comparison. What's going to happen later? when our grid totally gets drained. We have rolling blackouts here all the time. Oh, it's going to become more the norm as soon as we get into this ridiculous year 2035. Friends, I'm just telling you, we've got a heap of trouble on our plate here in California. A lot of people have moved out of this state. A lot of high net worth individuals have moved out. That's why we have this budget deficit. It's because they're running these cities in insane ways. I mean, in San Francisco, I sold my place in San Francisco. San Francisco used to be a beautiful city. Parts of it are like a ghost town now. It's very disturbing. You go to Union Square, that was an international tourist attraction with some of the best stores, best hotels, best restaurants in the world. You go down there now, it's like, what happened? Zombie apocalypse. The only part of San Francisco that really hasn't changed is Chinatown because they have their own police force there. They take care of themselves very, very well. Other parts of the city, it looks like it's just horrid, homeless drug encampments. Sad. Smash and grabs going on in the city all of the time. People, 25% of the real estate in the financial district is vacant. People have left. High net worth individuals have left to go claim residence in other states. So California's sinking. Let's hit up the oil and gas companies. We'll get them to pay. We are in trouble. This state needs better leadership. I'm praying for a revival of spirit in this state. I'm serious. I pray that there's just a great awakening because that's our only hope in this state. It's crazy. And I didn't even talk about the cultural battles. I'm just talking about global warming and climate change. We're getting the same type of nonsense coming from the White House as well. Anyway, special edition of the Brian Sussman Show. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy this, please share. Please subscribe to my channel as well. Really would appreciate that. And we've got a new episode coming out, which I'm very excited about. That'll be on Tuesday. In the meantime, may God richly bless you. And thanks for watching and listening.